For my English language learner case study, I interviewed my grandma on my dad's side. She was born in Ridderkerk, Netherlands, and when she was 4 years old in 1954, they moved to the United States. One reason that they chose to was because of the German occupation during World War II. It was really hard economically and financially on the family, so they decided it would be best for their well-being, and my great-grandparents thought for the well-being of their children to give them a better head start in life and just a overall better economic and economic landscape to grow up in. So my Opa, my great-grandfather, always says that he came with just his wife, his 2 kids, and clothes on their back and $50. So they didn't have much when they came here. He was a bulb farmer, so they kept farming when they came here, and that was their main source of income. When they moved here, my grandma was only 4. All of them only spoke Dutch, and she was the oldest. So when she started kindergarten, she didn't know any English, and my Opa just dropped her off at school, and that was it. And she was just left there to learn English on her own and kind of figure it out as a little child. So she, after a couple months in kindergarten, she started to pick up the language and started to get more involved in school. Because at first she said she felt a little bit left out and she didn't really know what was going on because she didn't understand. So she began by copying what other people were saying and just trying to memorize things that they said and point it out and use that in her day-to-day life. The more that she spoke English in school, she started to teach her parents and her siblings how to speak English at home. So she became like the teacher. But my great-grandparents, Oma and Opa, mostly spoke Dutch, and very often my grandma will speak to my Oma in English and Oma will answer her in Dutch still. Grandma always says that the reason why she learned English so quickly was because she was so immersed in it and she had no choice. So she was just placed into a fully English school. No one else spoke Dutch there, so she had no choice but to learn, and that's why. And being young, she says she picked it up very quickly. She said she loves having 2 languages, and sometimes it takes her brain a few minutes to switch over from one language to the other language when she's talking. She didn't teach any of her kids how to speak Dutch, so my dad and his 6 siblings don't know how to speak Dutch. And when I asked her why she never did that, she said it just wasn't the thing to do when they were raising their kids. They all spoke English and she spoke Dutch because that's how she grew up, but she wanted her kids to grow up American, not Dutch. So I thought that was interesting, that it's part of the Dutch heritage and culture is dying with my grandma's generation, because most children, 2nd generation Dutch immigrants, don't speak Dutch. So that skill set is kind of leaving the community. So no one, except a handful of people, still speak Dutch. So I thought that was the most interesting takeaway of my interview with her, was that there wasn't a very big emphasis put on your native language when she was raising her kids back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. That sometimes in America we can be very not encouraging of people's native language and culture. Sometimes we try and focus more on English and learn English here in America, when I think there's a place for both in our culture and our society in America. So I think it's important that we try not to discourage people from being true to their parents' culture and heritage and where they came from.